Hey guys, welcome to today's episode, and I have a real treat for you. I want you to meet Ann Lousie Gittleman, and she has already been on our podcast, but for over 4 decades, people have turned to Ann Louise for advice on massive health issues, weight loss, health issues, longevity, so much stuff. She's got a new book coming out called Radical Longevity. We're going to talk all about that. We're going to talk about fat flush. We are talking about everything. So she is so amazing. Ann Louise, welcome back.
Nice to see you, Chantel. And how are you today?
Doing wonderful. And I want to start off because everyone's always looking for some of the reasons why people are not losing weight. And I'm not going to read all the questions, but over and over, people are saying, I feel like I'm doing everything right, but I'm not. So talk about some of the things that you've seen that people are doing wrong, that they think they're doing right, and some kind of extra tips to get people into that fat burning metabolism.
I think one of the things that they're doing wrong is they're avoiding all the omega-6s. I mean, Chantel, because you've been in the business long enough to realize that omega-6s have gotten the bad end of the stick. They've been demonized just as bad as saturated fats once were. But when it comes to losing weight, you need something called gamma linolenic acid, or GLA, from black currant seed oil, or 2 tablespoons a day of hemp seed oil. GLA is very important to trigger the burning of brown adipose tissue, which is a dormant kind of fat that burns calories for energy without you doing anything. So there's a massive lack of vitamin, or I should say omega-6, which has been demonized, but you need the good omega-6, which is the GLA, either in the supplemental form or in the form of hemp seed oil, 2 tablespoons a day to chase the fat away. And when you do that and lose weight, your skin will not sag or bag or drag. It will tighten and tone the skin. Omega-6 is for sexy skin. It's for a good sex drive. It feeds the mitochondria, and it's exceedingly important for the burning of brown adipose tissue. So please don't believe anybody that's telling you to avoid the omega-6s. Certain of them are not good, like the cottonseed oil, the canola oil, the corn oil, the soybean oil that have been altered and have been heated. But you need the raw, unaltered source for your sex, for your skin, and to get rid of your excess weight. And it's worked for decades. I am 70 years young. Actually, I'm a little older. I'm 71, but I'll be 72 in June, and I'm the same weight as I was back in my high school days, quite frankly. And a lot of it is because I learned early on of the importance of gamma linolenic acid. So it's GLA to chase the fat away.
So is there something that you do every day where you say, these are kind of my things that I eat every day or drink every day that is kind of a staple from my diet?
Yes. In the morning, I do a couple of things every day. I take an adrenal formula. I have one called the adrenal formula that I created for myself over 30 years ago to get my adrenal glands functioning properly. I don't believe you can heal without well-oiled adrenals. And I take a thyroid supplement called ThyroKey. So I create supplements not just for my clients, but for myself, Chantel. And then I go downstairs and I get a little bit of hot water with lemon, which will cleanse the palate, tone the liver, and tone the kidney. After that, I make a smoothie, a green drink that has a little bit of MCT oil because that's instant energy for your brain. It's burned as ketones, which I'm fond of to some degree. And then I'll have a bigger breakfast after that, maybe 2 eggs and a half a grapefruit. So every day it's a thyroid supplement. And even though I'm relatively thin, I have found that I have low T3. So I take a thyroid supplement to keep my thyroid strong so that it can really be fighting against all the fluoride in the water, all the chlorine in the water, all the bromides. I also take an adrenal formula, which is so important to keep my energy good. I'm the kind that has reactive hypoglycemia. Are you familiar with the term?
Yes.
So I come from a family of diabetics. My father had diabetes type 2, all my cousins, my uncles. I'm still in the hypoglycemia phase. So I, for one, like many of your followers, I dare say, may not be a candidate right offhand for intermittent fasting, which I believe is terrific for many, like you, for example, but not for those of us with unstable blood sugar. So I make sure that if I'm not eating on time, I take an adrenal formula 3 times a day. It's 7 in the morning, at 11, and at 3. And I've done that because I like to manipulate metabolism. Chantel, we're not created equal when it comes to our ability to lose weight. Many of us think we're doing everything right by following the latest fads, but in essence, it may not be right for our unique body chemistry. So I like to celebrate our unique body chemistry, knowing what's good for your system. One man's meat is another man's poison, is another way of saying that.
So let's talk about that just a little bit more, about the reactive hypoglycemia. So from what I understand, that your liver doesn't stop sugar production as it normally would directly after a meal, and it kind of like stores glucose. Is that, are we on the same page? Like,
well, it stores glucose in the form of glucagon, and very oftentimes the liver is not working properly, but neither is the pancreas. So if you're not taking enough hydrochloric acid, your pancreas will not provide the proper enzymes it needs to break down fats or sugar. So it's kind of like an orchestra. It's not just the liver, my favorite fat-burning organ, but it's also concurrent with the pancreas, which is very overactive or underactive in those people that are over responsible. So there's also a personality type that kind of drives that. So what you need to make sure is that your blood sugar is level. You want at least a 70 to 90 blood sugar fasting blood sugar level. The levels have been lowered as of recent. So that's what you want to be able to do to successfully intermittent fast. And if you are going to engage in intermittent fasting, which I know is one of your pet projects, then you should by all means be taking a supplement like the adrenal formula or something very similar. You have to support your stress glands, which come under assault on a daily basis because of not eating properly if you have a blood sugar abnormality, or because of all the emotional, the psychological stresses of being in lockdown, what's going on in our country politically perhaps, but it's affecting you on an emotional, psychological, and spiritual level. So you want to make sure that your body is fortified. The adrenals are essential for health on every single level, every single body function known to man.
All right, I'm going to jump into a listener question, and this first question is from Zoe Mitchell from Houston, Texas. I really love your podcast, and I'd love to hear someone who specializes in parasites. I'm convinced that I either have SIBO or parasites because I'm constantly tired and constantly have brain fog. I also have a lot of skin issues that I can't seem to get rid of no matter what I try. Zoe Mitchell from Houston, Texas.
So Zoe Mitchell from Houston, Texas, this could have been me about 40 years ago, to tell you the truth, Chantel. So I wrote a book called Guess What Came to Dinner. I'm going to suggest that everybody pick up the book on Amazon. It's an underground classic. It was written several decades ago. The information that I wrote then is as apropos today as it was then. Parasites are one of the most underlying, neglected, overlooked, ignored, and unbelievable sources of a number of issues, including no energy, skin issues, which was my claim to fame many years ago. I had unending adult acne, which I did everything that I thought was right. Until I got rid of the parasites, my skin never cleared up. If you've got chronic fatigue, if you've got leaky gut, if you've got fibromyalgia, one of those sources may be the parasites that you're carrying in your system. We have over 130 various types, and I created a cleansing program, which I happen to have here, which I'm very proud of because every cleansing program on the market is based on this one, called My Colon Cleansing Kit. I developed this after getting a positive stool sample from a very well-known parasitologist that's no longer with us today. And it is a 2-week on, 5-day off program with the top parasite cleansing herbs that target the little guys like the amoeba, the giardia, the cryptosporidium, the cyclospora, and even the larger ones like the feet-long tapeworm with very unique herbs that you can't find elsewhere, because we actually studied with people that did all the parasite testing decades ago for the World Health Organization. So getting the kid is very important. Not eating sushi is exceedingly important. Using the same supplements at a half a dosage or even a quarter on your animals is another important function, and making sure that your child, if they're still going to daycare centers, are really observing all the hygienic rules of changing diapers. There's so many ways you can get parasites. It's one of the reasons, Chantel, that I do not eat salads when I go out to eat. Why do you think a top nutritionist, as I've been called like myself, does not eat salads at a salad bar?
Because they're not cleaning the vegetables and lettuce?
Half the time they're not. And there are all sorts of things that we found in vegetables and in broccoli that's uncooked, in lettuce, from all kinds of animals, maybe the rabbits, maybe the rodents, maybe the possums. You have no idea the kind of things we used to find years ago when I worked with parasitologists in their labs. So my point being is, if you follow the instructions of the 2 weeks on, 5 days off with our VermaKey, with our ParaPlus, Parakey, VermaPlus, as well as some of the probiotics that we suggest, you're in business. When you do a parasite cleanse, you do not take high doses of antioxidants, however, because they will feed the parasites. And for the first 2 weeks, you don't even use probiotics. So we have a little brochure that comes with a kit. The kit is as easy as can be. And every time it is a parasite cleansing 5-day window. In the middle of the month, we also revisit the program 5 days of what I call the full moon window. Because what I learned from some of the herbalists that I studied with herbalists, parasitologists, alternative doctors. Parasites come to life during the 5-day window of the full moon. So 2 days before the full moon, the day of, 2 days after, I actually revisit everybody with these particular supplements. And for this particular formula that I created over 20 years ago, I think it's now over 30 years ago, I revisited every month for 5 days. So it's an ongoing process, Chantel. When you remove the parasites, the big guys, the invisible guys, the microscopic ones, the little vampires from your system, the skin clears up, the bags go away, the hair regrows, you get strong nails, no more leaky gut, no more pooping in the toilet where the poop goes way, way down. It doesn't float, it doesn't go down. It's perfect poop, perfect urination. You cannot believe all the things that happen. And you can sleep better because there's no more nocturnal awakening because of the parasitic cycle. So it's more important now than ever to cleanse yourself of parasites. I learned many decades ago that parasites are the most immunosuppressant agent known to man. So if you don't get rid of them, your immune system is constantly getting tired, trying to keep them at bay. We find a lot of toxoplasmosis with people that are cat owners, so you've got to be careful of that. A lot of roundworm with people that get new little puppy dogs. So you've got to take care of your animals and love them properly, and I tell you how to do that in my Guess What Came to Dinner, as well as the little brochure that comes with the colon cleansing kit. So I've been there, done that. I've seen feet-long tapeworms come out of me. I've seen roundworms. I've seen flukes. They're all over. They're more predominant than ever. People are not just having one problem, Chantel. We're seeing 4 to 5 that they're carrying in their systems. And many of the clinical studies are proving me out to be true. When I lecture in front of big groups, I'll take a look at everybody seated and I'll tell them that 8 out of 10 are carrying 1 or more uninvited guests. The best way is to just do a cleanse seasonally, as well as during the 5-day full moon window, and voila, the skin clears, your mind clears. It was like having the lights come on in my brain when I did this initially many, many decades ago, and people now are doing the program on a seasonal basis, a monthly basis, with outstanding weight loss results. If you can't gain weight or you can't lose weight, look to the parasites and say, adios, amoeba, forever.
You know what's funny is the girl who does my nails, she comes to the house every week, and she used to be a fishmonger. And I got sushi one day, and I said, would you like some? And she said, oh, no, thank you. I'll never eat fish again. She said, I used to be a fishmonger here in Virginia Beach. And she said, I would literally cut open the fish. And she said, every single fish that we opened had parasites. And what we were instructed to do was to literally just take it, and wherever you could see the parasites, we were instructed to just cut out the fish and put that away. But she said, I saw so many of the fish have so much parasites and so much filled with worms. She said, I'll never eat fish again. And so it's funny that you say that, because now in my mind, after she said that, I'm like, maybe I should not be eating sushi ever again.
Oh, no, never eat it again. And I'll tell you why, because the sickest people that I've ever counseled are those that wouldn't give up sushi. So we put them on the program, we put them on the Parakeet, the Verma Plus, and I instruct them, if they ever do go out and eat sushi at a really well-respected sushi restaurant where the sushi chef will candle the fish, they actually put the fish near a light bulb to see if there are any strings coming out that are wiggling and moving. And if they can't find that, then they have to take my Parakeet 20 minutes before they go out to eat sushi and follow up maybe an hour or two later with the Verma Plus. So we get them coming and going, so to speak. We hit the little ones and the big ones. And sometimes a lot of the sushi worms can embed themselves in the gut and create a lot of irritable bowel syndrome. So there's always an answer. You have to be looking in the right places and be willing to make lifestyle tweaks, practices, and changes that will change your life. Giving up sushi or taking the parasite formulas before you go out to eat, I think, is a must in this day and age, because if we're coming down with all these autoimmune degenerative diseases, you can imagine what's going on in the oceans and on land.
So let's talk a little bit more about the salads and how important it is. Because, no, really, that's a big one, because, I don't think people really think about that as much. And I want you to talk about your opinion on cooking your vegetables, and how do you think that that's better than having those raw vegetables, because of kind of cooking off some of the bacteria, the viruses, the parasites, depending on, where you live and where you're getting that food from. You don't know how it's been handled to make sure it's not ridden with all those things.
At home, we Clorox our food. Did I ever share that with you?
No.
So if you guess what came to dinner, and I highly suggest you do, everybody. If you
I have that book, yes.
You got to look in here. I give you the parasite form. It was handed down from me from a woman that was world renowned, that the kings and queens of various European countries used to consult with. And it's the Parasite Cleanse that you use for your food. I put everything, especially fish, all kinds of fish, my eggs, my meat, my chicken, in separate Clorox baths. That's what I do on a personal basis myself. It's a half a teaspoon of regular Clorox bleach to a gallon of water that you just use from the regular sources. You leave the food in by food groups for about 20 minutes, and then you soak it again in another 20 minutes with fresh water. It's the only way I'll eat food. After studying about this for as long as I have, and I've been through it, seen the parasites come out of me, so I know what it takes, I know what it looks like, I know what it feels like. I didn't go out to eat for 2 years after I learned about parasites. So we do the Parasite Clorox Bath Cleanse for all of our food. That's what we do. And when I go out to eat, whether it's fish or chicken, or I know I'm going to have to eat a salad because I'm invited out to dinner and they don't understand why a nutritionist doesn't eat salads, and I don't want to talk about worms at lunch or dinner at a special engagement, although I do in my own home, I take a little bit of our Para Plus and our Parakeet and our Verma Plus. So the point being is you have to protect yourself and plan ahead. But in my salad, I always have something bitter, which helps my digestion and hopefully will kill the parasites. I make a dressing, Chantel, out of an MCT oil personally because I like the taste of it because it has no taste. And I use a little horseradish. At a sushi restaurant, you'd use some wasabi, which actually can help kill the eggs and the parasites themselves.
Wow. Okay, so I want you to talk a little bit more about this Clorox bath that you're giving it. So explain it a little bit more in detail of exactly what you're doing.
So I'm taking a half a teaspoon. It becomes like a homeopathic dose of Clorox, which is antiviral, antiparasitic, anti-mold, anti-pesticides. And I put that in a bath. I have a sink at home where I relegate it to all my fruits, vegetables, and flesh foods. And I'll make separate baths of separate food groups. The vegetables go in one sink, the fruits may go in another, the eggs in yet another, and the fish in still another. So I may take up 4 sinks or 4 big bowls that can accommodate maybe a gallon of water. And then I put in a half a teaspoon of the Clorox from the regular source at the market. And I wait 20 minutes. I have a timer ready. I let all these different food groups soak, and then I put them in a fresh batch of water so it takes out all the Clorox. In this way, I'm killing the parasitic eggs, maybe the larvae. I'm also detoxifying them of pesticides and mold, which is very prevalent on certain foods these days, as well as any kind of heavy metals. And that's what I do. I've done this for now 40 years, and I used to even take Clorox baths if my skin got any type of eczema or rash. So I use it judiciously. I know people are going to say, Clorox, that's chlorine. It's not chlorine. It breaks down into a natural salt. Personally, that's what I do because I've been intimately involved with parasites for so many years. My business got started with these kinds of products. I was known as the worm lady for many, many decades.
Wow. Now with the eggs, you just soak the outside of the eggs with that?
Yes, because they spray eggs and you never know what's getting into the little chicken coops these days. So it's the whole egg. It's definitely the whole egg. Mm-hmm. And you want to make sure that the porous shell does not absorb any pesticides or herbicides. So that's what I do. But you can't put in loose beans, and you can't put in beans, and you can't put in lentils or maybe hamburger. You can't do that kind of a thing in a Clorox bath. For that, we have a special lamp. And I can talk to you about that maybe off camera and so forth.
Hey guys, I'm so excited. My new book, One Meal and a Tasting, is out now. And if you order the book on Amazon, just the regular paperback edition, if you go in and make a review, you will get the audio book for free. Send a copy of your receipt to questions@chantelrayway.com and you'll get the audio book right away. Awesome. So let's talk about your liver and your gallbladder and how important that is. Right now, fatty liver is kind of being talked about a lot. What do you suggest people to do to really getting their liver and gallbladder at optimal peaks?
So we love the liver because, number one, the liver takes a hit if you have parasites. So you got to keep your liver metabolizing fats, metabolizing all kinds of bodily waste, any kind of toxins and so forth. And you want to make sure that it can make good bile because it's the maker of bile, which is the ultimate golden liquid that's going to break down the fats that you're overeating, especially if you're on any of these fad diets. And I call ketogenic diets fad diets because I don't think they're sustainable. They're good for the short term if you've got problems with epilepsy, God forbid, type 2 diabetes that you have to get in place, maybe a little overweight that you need a little handle on, but it's not good for you long term, especially if you do not have a gallbladder. So I suggest that you up your intake of a nutrient called choline, or that you take bile salts if you do not have a gallbladder, which is the reason that I wrote a book called Radical Metabolism, And I've got to show you the book because I love this book. This is like a game changer. It's the No Gallbladder Diet book, ladies and gentlemen out there. And I talk about the foods that you should avoid if you've got gallbladder stones, like eggs, number 1, like pork, number 2, like onions, number 3. It's all in the book. I know I'm giving you a lot of information. Or you take a product called Bile Builder, which I created for my people that don't have a gallbladder, with outstanding results. Not only can they metabolize fat and get rid of their residual stones, or so I've heard anecdotally, but the most amazing thing has happened, Chantel. People that have been constipated for years are no longer constipated when they use Bile Builder, because the bile salts act as a lubricant for the gut. So the unintended wonderful consequence of using this for your gallbladder means no more constipation and hello, regularity.
And that is an issue with people right now, is especially because stress and them eating too many carbs can also make them constipated. But let's talk about why bile is so important. Explain what bile is, so people who don't know what it is.
So bile is like the dishwashing liquid for the dishwasher. It breaks down all the gunk in your system, particularly the fats. And if you're missing lecithin in your diet, if you're missing choline or lipase or taurine, you're not breaking down fats. So we give you the choline, the lipase, and the taurine in a product that you're not going to get elsewhere, because people are so highly deficient, especially because nobody's using lecithin anymore. So I created this for people that don't have a gallbladder, or for those that have fatty metabolisms, or those that have fatty livers and faulty metabolisms. So we're using the Bile Builder for non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and individuals that have a sluggish metabolism, particularly as they're in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. It's kind of the miracle supplement that I created for radical metabolism that's working wonders for the whole body.
I think that is probably the best supplement you have. And I think people don't realize how many people realize that they do have low bile. So if they're constipated, if they're bloated, if they have right shoulder pain, if they have thyroid issues, maybe
ear issues, because the gallbladder meridian goes through the ear. That's an issue with the gallbladder. If they've got aches and pains in the shoulders, which has always been my issue because I carry all my stress in my shoulders, getting this into your system really, really soothes and heals that whole gallbladder meridian. And people that have sciatica pain, because the gallbladder meridian goes through the sciatica, have found much relief. So it's kind of one of those things that's an underground secret, just like Guess What Came to Dinner. And the fact is that I've had all these issues myself, so I created the books, helped to co-create the formulas that'll heal people in a way that not only is simple and easy, but does not allow them to completely have to change their lifestyles.
Yeah. And wouldn't you say like stool that floats, or maybe that's pale in color or has like a really bad odor, that might be a symptom of low bile?
Yeah, so keep looking at your stools, ladies. If they're clay colored and very white, you're needing a little bile. If they're floating, you need bile. And if you're gassy, if you're burping, if you've got even a little bit of acid reflux, we found that the Bile Builder is very helpful for people that have done everything right but can't get rid of acid reflux. So it's kind of like this miracle supplement that I created for my people that don't have a gallbladder, but it's healing people that do have a gallbladder from a myriad of other issues, especially the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. That's my real pleasure and my real gratitude, to know that there's something out there that can help people tremendously.
Let's talk about your poop for just a little bit. And
your poop, my poop, yes.
We love everyone's poop. Yeah. So let's just have people looking at inside their toilet. What would they their first reaction be? So what's the shape need to look like? The size need to look like? What is normal? And how often would you say, hey, this is how many times you should be going to the bathroom. This is what it should look like. This is what it should smell like. give us some tips on that.
Okay, tips on poop from what I have gleaned over the past 70 years. What I can tell you is that the poop should be the shape of your intestine. So you really want a foot-long stool. If you're doing everything right, that stool should be a foot long, and it should not be greased together. It should not be sticky. If it's sticky, it's a sign of fungus and mold. If it has a clay color or very little color, it's a sign that you need bile. And if it's floating, you need the bile builder as well. You don't want any odors or smells unless you're eating a lot of garlic, or even turmeric or curry can make an odor in the body. But if it has an ammonia odor, you need some citrulline. You need a little amino acid help there. So there's an awful lot that you can glean from it. And you shouldn't see little seeds. You shouldn't see little strings, and you see nothing moving in the stool itself, because it may be a sign of worms or parasites. When you see little seeds that are perfectly shaped, little white, they look like even little white pumpkin seeds, it's usually a sign of flukes. So you can tell an awful lot by really looking at the poop, diagnosing it, using a little stick to kind of see what's swirling around. And then you can act accordingly to what you need to do. But you'd be surprised at what you find and what comes out of your body. So don't be afraid to look. Men look all the time. Women just like to flush.
That's awesome. Well, what other health tips can you give our listeners that you'd say, you know, some of the newest things that I've realized that people really need to look into is what right now?
I think they have to look into how bad certain foods are, because they prevent your body from aging properly, or aging with grace, vitality, and resilience. So it's the way you're cooking your food. You have to give up grilling unless you're marinating, roasting, or broiling. You need to marinate. You should be steaming. You should be poaching. You should be stir sauteing. And don't use oil when you do that. Use a little bit of broth. I'm also not a big believer in all the bone broth that people are using, because they don't know how much lead they're consuming day in and day out. I'm in love with vitamin C as a collagen provider, as a collagen precursor. I do not like all the collagen that's out there, because I don't think it's utilized properly, and you don't know what you're ingesting with all the heavy metals or perhaps chemicals used in the processing. So I'm a big believer in vitamin C to the rescue. I have a vitamin C that I take on a daily basis, and cuts go away in no time, black and blue marks, and collagen production seems to increase exponentially. It's called Vitality C, and it's available. I believe it's available if you go on my website, annlouise.com, and look at shop, and you'll be sent to my distributor, which is Unikey Health. And one scoop, Chantel, one scoop provides 4 grams of vitamin C. I take 20 grams a day and find that I'm as regular as can be, especially with my bile builder. So vitamin C is the premier antioxidant. I wouldn't get sucked in with all the bone broth nonsense that's out there, unless you know where the bones are coming from, of course, and you make them yourself, and you Clorox the darn bones. So there's a lot that goes on that you have to be a free thinker about. It's very confusing, which I'm glad is why that you now have such a successful podcast, and I'd love to come and be one of your experts on a monthly, bi-monthly, seasonal basis.
Awesome. I want you to dive into the grilling portion, because I know you just said you don't like the grilling idea. Talk about that for a minute.
So anytime you use heat that's high and dry and dehydrates food, that browns it or toasts it or crisps it, you're forming something like it's called advanced glycation end products that are one of the most pervasive, but again, underappreciated, ignored sources of aging. In order to prevent that, if you marinate with a kind of acidic property, whether it's wine, an organic non-GMO wine, or a little bit of lime juice or lemon juice with perhaps some regular broth, whether that's chicken broth or vegetable broth, to keep the moisture in, you're in much better shape, because it will reduce the advanced glycation end products by 50%. We're finding that people that grill, that eat a lot of bacon, a lot of cheese, which are very high in advanced glycation end products, as well as butter, have a very high level of these advanced glycation end products, which affect their inflammation levels on a weekly, daily basis, depending upon how often often they engage in these foods. They have very sticky proteins that glom together, that stick together the collagen fibers, and that they're having joint problems and eye problems and kidney problems at a very young age. So get rid of those types of foods. Bacon is the most egregious, might I add. You've got to be eating a certain amount of plant foods, which are lower in ages. You've got to be using the low heat, high moisture methods, because that's the steaming, that's the souping, that's the sautéing, that's the use of some of the slow cooking crock pots. But anything that's high and dry, you have to say goodbye to, because you're paving the way to some of these diseases that affect every cell, every membrane, and every tissue in the body.
All right, I have a question from Stephanie in Indiana. My daughter has a horrible case of eczema and psoriasis. We have taken her off gluten. We have taken her off dairy. I have also done the same. I am still breastfeeding her. I also have some issues with psoriasis and eczema. We have been to every specialist. We have taken ourselves off of eggs, off gluten, off dairy, and nothing seems to help. What are some suggestions that can help?
So eczema and psoriasis are very connected to a lack of gamma linolenic acid as we began our podcast. I'd suggest that you get hemp seed oil, organic hemp seed oil, bring it to the house, 2 tablespoons a day, and get online, get my GLA that you can use and pop and put it topically on the skin. It's called GLA 90. In about 3 weeks, the eczema and the psoriasis will disappear. It's a GLA massive deficiency because everybody's staying away from the good omega-6s. That's my first recommendation.
So let's talk about omega-6 and the balance of omega-6 to omega-3 ratio that is really, really important. So how do you optimize your omega-6 to omega-3 ratio?
You either take supplements like our GLA 90, which I created for the past 20 years for weight loss because it stimulates brown adipose tissue. You can take it as a supplement, or you get some hemp seed oil that I just mentioned because it has the ideal ratio, which is 4-to-1 in favor of omega-6. All the material you've heard about omega-6 is just rehashed by these so-called experts because they're too lazy to do the research. So omega-6, 4-to-1 is the ratio. Hemp seed oil, hemp seeds. Another source of omega-6 is, believe it or not, a little sesame oil, and the GLA 90. Can somebody give me a GLA 90, one of my team?
So let's talk about the benefits of olive oil, but also some of the benefits, some of the non-benefits of some of the other oils that people are using in all of these, restaurants, like the cottonseed oil, some of the peanut oil. Can we talk about that?
My pet peeve. My husband has a restaurant guide, and I want to tell people about it because he's actually vetted every restaurant in the country. May I give that website?
Oh, absolutely.
It's called the TempletonList.com. Go on there and you'll see the restaurants that do not use canola oil, that use the healthiest oils, healthiest water, healthiest pots and pans, and healthiest non-GMO food. So that's my commercial, TempletonList.com. The best oils for you to use, and I like oils that you use and you don't cook with, because anytime you cook with any oil, even a high smoke oil, you're in trouble. So the best oils to use would be, for a daily basis, hemp seed oil. Now, Chantel, why am I mentioning hemp seed oil?
Because it's good in omega-6?
Because it's high in GLA, the biologically potent omega-6. You want hemp seed oil. You want GLA, and I just happen to have one here because I need to share this with you. This has helped children with cradle cap, eczema, and psoriasis, just like the gal who wrote to you just a little while ago. So you can take this topically. Do not use an olive oil that hasn't been vetted. A lot of it has been compromised with sunflower oil. I'm not a believer in avocado oil. Half of it is compromised. I love MCT oil because it's instant energy, but it does nothing for your skin, hair, and nails. What does for your skin, hair, and nails is a GLA supplement or hemp seed oil. I also am in big favor of macadamia nut oil if you need something with a little oil for high heat cooking. Other than that, you should not use oils. They all deteriorate and become high sources of advanced glycation end products that trigger advanced and accelerated aging.
So when you're cooking your food, are you're doing a lot of steaming? What else are you doing besides steaming on your food?
I cook in a clay pot. This is what I do. And I'm giving you scoops from Radical Longevity. If you want to find the whole scoop, get my book, radicallongevitybook.com. I've got to tell you about that because it's got the latest, greatest. I personally use a clay pot called a Ramertoff. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, I have.
So it's clay that is, it has a glaze of glass so that the clay does not seep through the food or the container. I use a Ramertoff and I use clay cooking. It is the best tasting food because it cooks by infrared heat. I do that. I use enamel covered iron. I do not use iron in my kitchen at all, nor do I use aluminum or aluminum foil.
And just so if anyone's listening, the way you spell that is ROMERTOPF. It's a very weird spelling of that. And just if you're wanting to Google it or look at it. And I know that Williams-Sonoma has some as well of this.
Or go to radicalmetabolism.com. You'll see the whole listing there. You see, it's very important to know not just what you're cooking or what you're cooking in. So I think that the Instant Pot is good because it actually cooks by steaming at a higher heat than I'd like to see, but it cooks by steaming. But anytime you grill, you roast, you broil, or you fry, you've got foods and proteins that are becoming denatured and full of these ages. And ages, again, are an underlying causes of just about every disease known to man, including getting stiff as you get older, sagging skin, which we're now all taking all that false collagen for, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot that you need to kind of unpack, and you just can't believe all these marketers that are out there hawking their latest products. You have to take your information with a grain of salt. Check out everything I'm saying by all the studies that are online. You'll see that what I'm telling you is as true as I can be because I'm at a certain age where it's almost like enlightened self-interest. I do the research, Chantel, not just for my clients and my followers and my fans, but also for myself.
Well, you always look amazing. You don't seem to age. Every time I see you, you don't age. You look amazing. I know you feel amazing. And I just really want to say thank you for all the work that you've done. And you really are a health visionary, getting people to the next steps on their health. So tell listeners where they can get these products. And I would like you, if you had to name the 3 products that you would say that really help with, gallbladder, liver, parasites, that, if they could only pick 3, what are your 3 favorite products? And tell people where they can find you and follow you.
My 3 products, let me see, would be Bile Builder #1 for the gallbladder, for your liver, for fatty liver, for gallstones, for constipation. Go to annlouise.com, Bile Builder. For the Parasite Cleanse, which I totally adore and live on every single 5 days of the full moon period.
So say that again. So when do you take that? When do you take that Parasite Cleanse again? Explain that.
So there's an initial 2 weeks on, 5 days off, 2 weeks on, 5 days off. And then thereafter, do the 5 days in the middle of the month for the 5-day window. We call the full moon window.
Got it.
It's all explained in this little brochure that you get with this. And this is called My Colon Cleansing Kit. It is the premier kit that everything on the market that you see advertised on YouTube, on Facebook, it's all based on this and my research. So this is the mother load. This is the mother, whatever it's called. The original. Get it from the original. I'm old enough to know better. AnnLouise.com. And then number 3, I'm going to say something very surprising. It's my YC Cleanse, AnnLouise.com. Why? Because everybody's loaded with yeast, fungus, and mold, and this will help to keep the mold colonies, the yeast colonies, and the fungus colonies at bay. I take this twice a day.
Bring that a little closer so people can see it. Now, what's the name of that one again?
It's a homeopathic called YC Cleanse. When I go out to eat and we're with friends, and I'm not a drinker, I'm the daughter of a liquor salesman, but I don't basically drink. But I know when I'm with people and they expect you to have a little wine, a little vodka, a little schnapps, a little whatever it is, I take this before and after I go out to eat. It's called YC Cleanse. It prevents yeast from getting a hold on your intestinal tract. It keeps the microbiome in good shape, and it also feeds the skinny bacteria. I adore this product, YC Cleanse. So you got your bile builder, your colon cleansing kit, and YC Cleanse.
And you've got your book coming out, Radical Longevity.
Yes, indeed.
Coming up. But what would you say is your favorite book that is out currently that you would say out of the books you've written, you'd say, what's your favorite book you've ever written so far?
Guess What Came to Dinner?
Good one. It's so important. And people don't talk about it. It's ridiculous. No one's talking about parasites. And it's the number one thing that's it's causing all these problems.
It is, because it's the most immunosuppressant agent known to man, as I mentioned previously. So if you don't get your immune system in good shape, it's going to be worried about chasing all the amoebas out of you, all the roundworms, all the flukes, all the flatworms. We got all sorts of things happening. And a healthy system can keep them at obeyance and at bay. But we are so bombarded with EMFs and nanoaluminum and chemtrails and glyphosates that the system gets very tired. So do your body a favor, lessen your toxic load, and say goodbye to parasites. They're the underlying number one cause of all disease known to man.
Agreed. Well, it's always so much fun talking with you. I love it. And hopefully you'll come back on our show. And you guys stay tuned. We've got another episode coming up in just a bit. Bye-bye for now.